Hello and welcome. My name's George, and my channel is all about helping you get the most out of Logic Pro so that you can record and produce your best music in your home studio. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive on creating a vocal chain in Logic Pro. Last week, we looked at creating a songwriter template, and this is just going to take that a little bit further and doing a deep dive specifically on the vocal. So let's dive in. Okay, so for starters, what actually is a vocal chain? So vocal chain is just kind of the collection of plugins and processes that you're going to have on your vocal. So for example, your compression, your EQ, your reverb, things like that. And the way that those are rooted as well. So one plugin running into the next. So if you ever hear the term vocal chain, we're just talking about a collection of plugins or effects on a vocal track, for instance, but this can be applied to any instrument and any track. Now, once you've found a sound and settings that works good for you, then it's a good idea to actually save those. Then you can reapply them on future projects. And of course, you can still tweak them as needed, but at least that gives you a starting point and helps kind of cut down on some time of just, again, messing around and loading things in. You have kind of a clear idea of where you're starting. And as I mentioned, you can always change and tweak that as you go. But our goal with this is just to get us up and running as quickly as possible so that we can remain creative without kind of getting bogged down in all the technical stuff. So for starters, I have my vocal loaded in here that we're going to work with today. And I'll just play a little bit of that so you can hear what it sounds like without any effects.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me like a chill through the air.
So there we go. So I'll probably go back and forth between soloing the vocal and having it with the track so we can see how they sound together. Now you'll probably see a lot of debate online of whether the first plugin you should add is either an EQ or a compressor. And for me, with most things, I'll generally start with the compressor. However, if there's things that need to be removed and filtered out first, well, then I'll start with my EQ. So in this case, I will start with EQ, but only to filter out some low-end information. And I'm doing this because if there is anything in those lower frequencies, I want to get those out of the way before I apply the compressor so they're not affecting my compressor at all. So to load in the EQ, we can just go a little shortcut right here on the EQ thumbnail, and that brings this up. And for this EQ, all I'm going to do is apply the high pass filter. And that's just going to filter out any low end information. So we'll have a listen, and then you'll hear when kind of the voice starts to thin out.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed, I want to tell you and...
So I'm just going to leave it there. So we're at 125 hertz. So as you heard, when I go higher up, we're filtering out the vocal. So we definitely don't want to do that. We're just cleaning up any kind of low end stuff that might have been just recorded in the room, some fan noises, air conditioning, maybe some steps above you if you have creaky floors above you. And you can see when I was playing it, there was a couple kind of bumps down here, and anything that's kind of below this 125 range, that's not really usable information and nothing that contributes to the voice anyways. So we just want to go ahead and filter that out. And then that also makes sure that that's not triggering our compressor at all. So that only the useful and pleasing voice information is what's hitting our compressor. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And now we'll move on to our compression. So for the compressor, there's a shortcut to get there as well. And that's just above the EQ. There's a little kind of grayed out line here. You see it says gain reduction meter. We click on that. That loads up our compressor here. And I'm actually going to be running 2 compressors. And I do this sometimes for vocals so that I can tame my vocal quite a bit without driving the compressor too hard. So I have 2 compressors, one after the other, and that allows me not to kind of run each one individually as hard and get a nice smooth vocal out of it. And in the Logic compressor, we actually have a bunch of different models built in. So Studio VCA, for example, Studio FET, Classic VCA, Vintage VCA, Vintage FET, and Vintage Opto. So I'm going to start for my first compressor using the Studio FET, and this is modeled after an 1176, which is a very popular compressor for vocals. And I'm going to start with a preset here. Go to voice, and we'll go to Studio Vocal, and this will kind of be our starting point here. Now, one thing I'll mention on this preset, the makeup gain is quite high. It's set to 11.5 dB right now. So that means right off the bat, it's going to boost our vocal up that much. So I'm just going to bring this down to 0, and then we can boost it later if we need to. And then our threshold, I'll adjust this as well so that we're kind of around the 3 dB range, plus or minus a little bit. If we look at our vocal, you can see kind of the verses. There's quite a bit of dynamics here, louder here, quieter, louder, quieter. And same here, kind of softer in this section, a bit louder there. So it is quite a dynamic performance. If you find that things are overly dynamic, you can go and adjust the gain. So for example, let's just zoom in here. If we want to kind of boost this section up a little bit to be closer to there, we could make a little cut here and get our gain tool and bring that up a little bit and just get that closer. But we still have, these peaks here compared to here. So that's our compressor is going to take care of that. So let's bring our compressor back up. Let's have a listen, and we're going to adjust our threshold here.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed, I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart, then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where.
Okay, so I've got my threshold dialed in now, kind of hovering around -3, but you'll notice in the louder sections, it kind of goes higher.
Feeling lost and
right here, we're at -5. And then if we go to here, you'll notice the meter's a bit lower.
I've been.
So that means in these louder sections, it's bringing the volume down more at -5 dB, and in the quieter sections, it's bringing them down less, -2, around there. So that's helping even out the vocal there and just making the dynamics a little bit closer and not as spread out. And now we could add a little bit of gain in there. So that's just adding back kind of what's being compressed. So I'm just going to add back 3 dB, so quite a bit less than the 10 that was in there previously. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close this, and let's load in a second compressor. Now, we can't use the shortcut again because that'll just open up the first compressor. So we'll go below click on there, and you could go from recent compressor, or the longer way, we could go dynamics, compressor, mono. And that brings up our compressor again. Now for our second compressor, I'm going to go with the vintage Opto. And this is modeled after the LA2A. So this is another very common hardware unit for vocals. And the preset that I like for this one is the natural vocal. So again, we'll have a listen through and I'll adjust my threshold again to being kind of that -3 area. My makeup gain's only at 1 dB, so I'm just going to leave that there. So let's have a listen here.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed.
Okay, great. So we got those dialed in. So again, having both compressors working in tandem, where now each one's kind of working a little less rather than compressing a lot. So rather than, having the one compress above -6, we have kind of both of them working in tandem.
So hard to bear, they weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air.
And that just helps, again, control the dynamics and make kind of everything sit a little bit better and sound more cohesive together. Now, the next thing I'm going to add, which I don't always, but it's a good thing to have on hand, is a De-Esser. And this is going to help control our sibilants, so our S's. If any of those are kind of overbearing, it's going to help with that. And sometimes the compressor can kind of bring these out a little bit. So I'm going to go here under the compressor. We'll go to dynamics. We have our De-Esser 2. And we can look at our presets here. We have female vocal, split band and wide band, male vocal, split band and wide band. So we'll go female wide band here. And I'll just turn this off for a second so we can, let's try and key in on some of the S's.
Feeling lost and ashamed.
So shame, for example, you can hear that, right?
Ashamed. I want to tell you and more.
And actually, if we go to the chorus,
when I look in your eyes, I see you slipping away.
slip in. So it's not actually too bad.
See you slipping away.
But again, a bit of that.
I wanna hurt you this way. When you're here by my side, I feel you slipping away.
So again, if it's not bothering me, then I don't generally use a de-esser, but it's good to have on hand just in case. So it kind of works like a compressor that's just pinpointed in on a certain frequency, in this case, 9,758 hertz. And your threshold is going to determine how much we're bringing down those S's.
Feeling lost and ashamed. I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart, then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where I've been. Tell you I should.
So on the should, you can see the reduction happening.
I should.
Yeah, and you can hear the difference there, right?
I should.
Shh, compared to.
I should tell.
So if we wanted to bring that down further, we could increase the max reduction for 1.
I should tell you.
And we could also play around with the threshold, but right now it's already hitting the max. I'm going to put it back to 6 just so it's not squashing it too much. So there's our de-esser, and you may have to change the frequency depending on the character of the voice, but the preset's kind of a good starting point. Now, the next thing we'll be adding is our EQ, but one of the reasons why we have our de-esser first is just so we can get rid of those S's before we start kind of boosting things. Because, for example, if we're boosting the high end and all those S's are still there, well, then those are going to get even more pronounced. So let's go ahead and load in another EQ. So EQ, and we'll start with the channel EQ here. Now, we already kind of filtered out the low stuff, so we shouldn't have to do that again, but we could just have it there for good measure if we wanted to, and we could do it a little bit less, maybe at 90 hertz. Now, generally speaking, EQ is what's going to help us shape our sound the most. So we're going to be kind of filtering out frequencies that we don't like, that we find unpleasing, that are muddying things up, and we're going to boost frequencies that we do like and that are going to help kind of bring the vocal up and cut through the instruments in the mix. So let's start by targeting anything that's kind of muddying things up. And that's usually kind of in this range. So I'll kind of go and sweep and see if I hear anything and then bring those down as needed.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed, I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart, then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where I've been. Wish that I could take it back somehow. I feel your mind stop.
Okay, so just filtering out a little bit of the low end there. It doesn't come through as much here, but a little bit more kind of in the verse when she's in that lower range.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me.
Just helps clean it up just a little bit. And then next, I'm going to kind of find the spot that I find kind of most pleasing and boost that a little bit. And that's usually kind of in this general range. And I also like to kind of adjust my Q. So this is adjusting the amount that's being affected. And, you know, if you want kind of a nice gentle curve, you can do something like that. And if you want to kind of target things a little bit more, then you can have it set like so as well. So again, I'm just going to hit play and scan through a bit and see what I like.
Like a chill through the air, feeling lost and ashamed. I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart, then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where I've been. Wish that I could take it back somehow. I feel your mind start questioning. I don't know what to tell you now. When I look in your eyes, I see you slipping away. It kills me inside, don't wanna hurt you.
So there we go. So I just found kind of that spot that I liked. And then I did widen the Q a little bit after to make it a bit more of a kind of gentle rise and fall. And you could hear as I'm muting it that it definitely sounds a lot clearer to me with this kind of EQ going on. Now, for a pop vocal like this, I also like kind of having a high shelf and just adding a bit of air in there, and that helps the vocal cut through the mix a lot. And a lot of times I'll do it right in the channel EQ, but we also have some vintage EQs that we can check out for that. So I'm going to go ahead and close the channel EQ. And under that, we'll go to EQ, vintage EQ selection, and we'll go to the vintage tube EQ. And this is modeled after Pultec EQ. Again, a very famous hardware unit. So for this, I'm going to use this just to kind of boost the high end. So we have our frequency dial here that we can either do it kind of variable like this, or you can click on the numbers, which would be more kind of like the actual hardware unit. So we can start with 10K, but probably boost kind of around 8 to 12, I would say. And then the bandwidth, I'm going to crank this all the way up to 10 so that we're nice and wide. And then the boost, this will control how much we're actually boosting.
This way, when you're here by my side, I feel you slipping away. Tell you a lie, I just need you to stay. You're slipping away, slipping away, slipping away. Lingering sweat on my lips, a kiss that wasn't from you. Can you taste him on me? Are you tasting the truth? Tears of regret on my face. I know what I did was wrong. Now I know in my soul it's in your arms I belong. I should tell you where I've been.
So again, just adding that high-end information there, and that's just going to help kind of bring that vocal up above the rest of the track. So the amount you boost is going to be the amount that you're adding in. So you can adjust that as necessary. So we'll go ahead and close our vintage EQ. And now the last thing I've been playing around with lately, that's kind of a newer add-on to Logic, is the ChromaGlow plugin. So that's going to be found under Distortion, ChromaGlow. And I'll just mention the ChromaGlow. This is only available for people with the M silicon chips. So if you're on an Intel chip, unfortunately, this isn't available, which is why it's a bit of a new plugin for me, because I previously wasn't able to use it myself. So this is just going to add a little bit of saturation and distortion, but you can apply kind of as much or as little as you want. And it also kind of depends the genre of music that you're in. Might not call for this, but if you want to get kind of a little bit more grit out of your vocal, then you can certainly check this out. Now there's different kind of models you'll see here: retro tube, mono tube, magnetic squeeze, analog preamp. Maybe I'll stick with the modern tube. And there's also different styles: clean, colorful. I'm gonna go with the colorful. And then we can bypass below. So I'm gonna do that. So I don't want to affect kind of any of the lower frequencies. Maybe we'll go to 170. And then level in, level out. We'll leave at 0 and then mix. Currently I'm at 100%. And I'll kind of gonna bring this drive up until I hear it kind of distort and do its thing. And then I'm gonna adjust the mix to taste. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning here.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed, I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart.
So you can hear kind of the distortion and saturation happening there. And then now I'm going to bring the mix down so that just a little bit of that is getting introduced into the vocal.
Then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where I've been. Wish that I could take it back somehow. I feel your mind start questioning. I don't know what to tell you now. When I look in your eyes, I see you slipping away. Kills me inside, don't wanna hurt you this way.
So it just adds a little bit of bite, if you will. And I have it set very subtle right now. Again, the 15%. If the style you're working with calls for more, then you can increase that mix and get kind of more of that saturation happening. Okay, let's go ahead and close this. So that's all our kind of insert plugins taken care of. So that's everything that's affecting the track directly. And when you're doing this, you want to be conscious of the order because everything kind of runs into the next plugin, and the effect that you'll get is going to differ depending on the order. So you do want to be intentional about that. Now we're going to switch over to our sends, and our sends are used. We're going to send our signal to a separate track, and that, for starters, is going to be our reverb. So I'm just going to open up my mixer here so you can see what's happening. So this is our vocal track here, and we don't currently have any sends set up. So I'm going to click here where it says sends, go to bus, and click on bus 1. And you'll see that's going to create a new track right here, aux 1, bus 1. And I'm going to rename this verb medium. And now on our auxiliary bus track, I'm going to click here, and we'll go to our reverb. I'm going to use a space designer, select stereo, and I'm going to select kind of a medium length reverb. So I'll go to our presets here to medium space, and I usually have a plate reverb. I kind of like this blue plate myself, and you can see the length set to 1.75 seconds. And now the wet and dry signal here, this is important when you're using this as a send. You want the wet signal set at 100% so that everything that's coming through this plugin is being affected 100%. And we don't want any of the dry signal, because the dry signal is going to be coming from our actual track that we're sending here. And this is going to be purely reverb. So I'm going to close this and let's have a listen. And I'm going to add in the reverb using this send. So I'm going to bring this up. And the more I bring this up, the more signals getting sent to here, which is going to give us more of that reverb.
When you're here by my side, I feel you slipping away. Tell you a lie, I just need you to stay. You're slipping away, slipping away, slipping away.
Okay, that's kind of a nice level to start. And now I'm going to add a second reverb, and this is going to be a longer one. So again, I'm going to go below my bus, and here I'm going to go to bus 2. And let's call this verb long. And I'm going to do another space designer. But this time we're going to go to large spaces, and let's choose a hall. And let's go to this warm vocal hall, for example. So now we're up to 3.72 seconds. And again, I'm going to increase the wet signal, and let's blend that in. So that's this second longer reverb is going to linger along longer than the first one we had. So that's just going to kind of be in the background a little bit. And I'm not going to add as much as I did the first one.
Lingering sweat on my lips, a kiss that wasn't from you. Can you taste him on me? Are you tasting the truth? Tears of regret on my face. I know what I did was wrong. Now I know in my soul, it's in your arms I belong.
Okay, so there's our two reverbs loaded in. And one of the reasons for using sends and not having them directly on the track was, for one, if I had two on the track, then I'd just be running one reverb into the next rather than kind of having independent control over them. But the other reason is, now if I had more vocal tracks or more any tracks, I could run these to this same reverb without having to add a reverb for every track. I can just, on, let's say, as an example, this track, I can set it to bus 1 and then send this track to that same reverb without having to create a new reverb track. So now we're going to move on to delay. So I'm going to create a new send once again. We'll go bus 3, and I'm going to create a stereo delay. So for that, we're going to go down to delay, select stereo delay. Now, stereo delay is basically kind of two delays in one, because we have settings for the left and settings for the right. So you kind of have one delay for the left and one delay for the right. So I'm going to adjust this low cut again, just so I'm not affecting those low frequencies, because once again, they don't really contribute a lot to our vocal, and they're just going to kind of muddy things up a little bit. I'm going to set the left side, let's go 8 notes on the one and 16ths on the other. Now for feedback, this is how long the delay's going to linger around. So the bigger the feedback, the kind of more repeats you're going to get. So I'm going to keep this fairly short, kind of around 7%. And let's play this and then add this in. I'll just mute the reverb for now so we can hear the delay on their own.
Standing outside your door, these thoughts are so hard to bear. They weigh heavy on me, like a chill through the air. Feeling lost and ashamed.
So that just helps kind of widen things out a little bit. Now, sometimes I like having a second delay as well, a longer delay. So again, we had 8th notes and 16th notes. So I'm going to add one more bus. And for this one, I'm going to add the tape delay. So we'll go to delay, tape delay. That can be set to stereo. We're going to set the output, again, the wet signal, to 100%. The feedback, let's bring this down a little bit. We'll kind of adjust that as we need to. And let's give half notes a try. Maybe I'll mute the first reverb just so we can hear this clearly.
I wanna tell you and more. My words just fall through my heart, then left unsaid on the floor. I should tell you where I've been.
So for this one, I just have it very faintly in the background. And that's kind of just this lingering, longer delay. So let's close this and let's have a listen with everything.
Wish that I could take it back somehow. I feel your mind start questioning. I don't know what to tell you now. When I look in your eyes, I see you slipping away. Kills me inside, don't wanna hurt you this way. When you're here by my side, I feel you slipping away. Tell you a lie, I just need you to stay. You're slipping away, slipping away, slipping away. Lingering sweat on my lips, a kiss that wasn't from you. Can you taste him on me? Are you tasting the truth? Tears of regret on my face. I know what I did was wrong. Now I know in my soul, it's in your arms I belong.
So there's our completed vocal chain with our compression, our EQ, our reverbs, and our delays. And again, this just gives us a good starting point anytime we're starting either a mix or starting a song creation or recording. We can start with this and then just adjust as necessary depending on the song or the genre. Now, once you've created this, you can actually save it and then just quickly bring it back in any of your sessions. So if you go up here where it says settings and go to save channel strip setting as, you can call this vocal chain. And then anytime you want to load in that vocal chain, you'll just go to settings and you'll see it right there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments below. And if you want to improve your workflow in Logic Pro, don't forget to download my free Ultimate Logic Pro Starter Pack. This includes my Logic Pro hotkey cheat sheet, my audio recording guide, my gear guide, my mixing guide, and my Logic Pro session templates. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one.